Hello, Miss Rachel. Please tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, where you go to school, what university you're representing, and where did you study abroad? Take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Ransom. I'm a recent graduate of Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, and I studied abroad with AIFS in the spring of 2020 in Barcelona, Spain.
And what happened in spring 2020, Rachel?
Okay, well, to start off, everything was great, but if we're speaking about the ending, that's obviously when COVID-19 happened and we were told to all come back to the US. So that was something that was really abrupt and a huge adjustment, but nevertheless, I had the best experience in Barcelona, and even though my time was cut short, it was still extremely impactful on my life.
Excellent. We can't wait to hear all about it. So you studied abroad in Barcelona. I know there's like a lisp with the dialect. Did you know any Spanish before you went abroad? Because if you did, what's the difference between speaking Spanish in Barcelona versus speaking Spanish maybe elsewhere?
So I did know a little Spanish before going abroad. I studied Spanish for 6 years in grade school, and then my mom's side of my family is from Panama in Central America, so I'm familiar with being around the language. But going to Barcelona was definitely different. I guess compared to other language or Spanish-speaking countries, it's considered like the proper way to speak Spanish. So it's like a comparison of how we speak English in America to how people speak it in the UK. We think that would be more proper. It's the same thing. But then also in Barcelona, something I didn't know before going is that they actually have an additional language they speak called Catalan. And so that was very interesting to get used to because it was already an adjustment to be all the time surrounded by Spanish. And then for there to be another language that had a little different of a dialect to it was definitely something that was an additional hurdle to get over.
And when you repatriated home, did you find yourself, when using your veering towards that Catalan like style, or were you able to kind of snap back?
I definitely was able to snap back because I feel like I was around so many different people in Spain, people from America who had learned a different type of Spanish just like me, but also a lot of people in Spain who had maybe immigrated from different countries. So there were different dialects when it came to speaking Spanish that I was constantly surrounded by.
I've heard that from students that have studied in Barcelona, like maybe they're repatriating and they have like another semester left and they go back to their Spanish class and they're like, this is different. So did you know prior to studying in Barcelona that you wanted to study there? Did you kind of mull over other options, maybe other regions in Spain? Because we do have 5 or 6 different cities in Spain that you can study in. So what was the draw?
Before studying abroad, I knew that I was comfortable with the Spanish, which I wanted to be somewhere that speaking Spanish, but I've never been to Europe. So that made me feel like, okay, I want to go to Spain. And then before doing any research, my immediate draw to Barcelona was because of the 𝗟𝗘𝗧 movie. That's really why I chose it. That said, I recognized once I got there that I didn't do that much research to understand what Barcelona was going to be like. I don't know what I imagined it would be like. I really didn't set any expectations for myself for it. But once I got there, I recognized it was literally like a New York City, but with everyone speaking Spanish. So it wasn't difficult to get adjusted to. You know, it had all the public methods of transportation, a lot of walking, a lot of big shops, restaurants, things like that. So it was really fun to be there.
Housing. What was your housing like? What housing did you choose? What housing does Barcelona offer? Tell me a little bit about what was it like to wake up in Spain?
For me personally, I chose to stay in an apartment, mostly because I had never stayed in an apartment in the US. So that's just something like an experience I wanted to have. But also, I think my family felt more comfortable with me living with a group of people who came from the same place I came from. And like we were all having the same experience rather than living with the host family. But living with the host family was also an option. A lot of my friends really enjoyed that because they felt that that was the best way for them to immerse themselves in the culture and learn the language and learn the food and best restaurants and places to go in the city from their host parents. So that was definitely an option. And then another option in Barcelona was to stay in something equivalent to a dorm. So you'd have one roommate and it would be in a large building with a lot of other students. But the apartment complex I stayed in, there were other study abroad students in it, but it was a complex full of Spanish residents. So our neighbors were from the country and not necessarily students, which was really interesting. But I really liked it because even though we weren't in a host home, we still felt immersed in the culture because that's who we were surrounded by.
It is an international university. You did UAB?
Yes.
Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. Okay, cool. Yeah, it is an international university, so you'll have students from all different countries, all different walks of life. But what is cool about living with students that are from the US and people that are in your building that are international students and other people from Spain, just locals, what have you, is that you're not interacting with the same people all the time that you have class with. So you kind of, when you're in your classes, you might be in like somewhat of a bubble. And then, because especially if you're taking Spanish classes of any kind, you're probably not going to have Spanish locals in that class there. That's their native language. In the housing, you kind of get to interact with people that are maybe not in your university or not in the same classes. So it's a nice little step outside of that bubble. Tell me a little bit about your classes. So you said you took 6 years of Spanish before you... Okay, cool.
I definitely took it for a long time. So when I came to Spain, I took another Spanish class. Okay. And I still think I'm pretty basic when it comes to speaking the language, but I can get around. So to me, that's all that really matters. But besides taking language courses, I took a lot of courses surrounding international business. So I did an international business class, international marketing, and cross-cultural management. And I enjoyed those classes so much because not only were they international courses, like in subject, but they were international courses in who was teaching them. My teachers weren't solely from Spain. They were from Belgium, Ukraine. And that was just really impactful to me because to be teaching an international course and hear it from an international perspective and compare it to myself was really interesting. But then also all my courses were filled with students from different countries. So when we're in these courses and we're talking about things like cross-cultural dimensions and how people from different places can interact and how their culture can impact that, it was really interesting to see that on a firsthand basis with students in my classes from China, from Belgium, from Egypt, from Brazil, all different places. And so like the very information we were studying, we could see it reflected in the people in our courses and how we interacted in class and how we interacted in group projects and things like that. So that was really impactful to me.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Because, I mean, you think about where we're from America. This is a country built off of immigrants, right? We're all from, at one point or another, ancestors are from somewhere else. So it's kind of nice to have that firsthand in your classes, and it shifts the dynamic. Did you have a favorite class or one that you would maybe recommend to students that are going to go to UAB?
Okay. The class I really enjoyed was my international business class, and all of the classes that were on the international scope, mostly focused on cross-cultural dimensions, but I think this one did so the most in depth, and we even were able to do like case studies with different companies and how they do their business plans on an international basis. So that's something I really enjoyed. But then on the alternative, I really also enjoyed international marketing, mostly because, well, 𝗟𝗧 is my favorite store and 𝗟𝗧 is from Spain. And we did to be able to like do the case study, but then see the storefront and understand how their business is working was just really
Well, since we were talking about clothing, let's go into this question. So everyone dreads this. Did you feel like you adequately packed for the semester? You're in a spring term, so you're kind of veering out of winter, heading towards into warmer weather. Did you feel prepared? What were your packing methods?
When I packed, I think I packed everything I had almost. It was awful. I did not have any room. I was like, my suitcases were busting at the seams. And it was just so pointless. My mom and my aunt had come to visit a week after I got there and had to bring me extra suitcases because I couldn't take all of them myself. Like I overpacked to no extent. I would not recommend anyone do that because you're not there and everything. And then also when you get there, there's so many beautiful stores. Like there's so many clothes you're going to want to buy that you're going to come back and have to be like me and buy another suitcase. And it was a lot. If I could redo it, I would force myself to pack like basic because it was still cold. I was like turtlenecks, basic long sleeves, some sweaters and cardigans, and maybe a couple statement pieces when it comes to like the jacket or the shoe, so you can switch your outfits up a little bit. But I would have packed way less. And then also in Europe, in January, because that's when the spring semester starts, they have an entire month-long sale at all the stores. So when I learned that, as soon as I got there, I was in the store every single week buying stuff.
Spoken like a true fashionista. I think you said the word like, bring your statement pieces, which I loved.
use packing cubes. I did use those, so that condensed my space a little bit, but those are really essential and they can really compact the space that you are using in your suitcase.
I mean, like, use every square inch of air. But yeah, did you feel like your sense of style changed? Because also one thing to note about like Europe, Spain, Italy, France, like there's a lot of like street markets for artisans and local businesses and just like festivals and things like that where you'll find like clothing to shop at. We don't really have so much of that over here unless it's like holiday driven, but over there, like on an average Sunday, you'll see stuff like that on the street, on the sidewalk. So did you feel like your fashion changed when you were over there?
It definitely changed. My thing was, when I was there, I was like, okay, I know I'm American, but I'm going to try and look as un-American fit in so no one's staring at me or trying to bother me in any type of way. What I noticed, like, I just love the fashion in Europe, but what I noticed is a lot of people wear neutrals and black, and during that time, a lot of turtlenecks, trench coats, things like that, platform boots. So my style definitely adjusted to that. And also, just a fun fact for anyone who likes Zara, every store has different items in it based on what the people who walk the streets around that area wear. So in Barcelona, if you walked 5 blocks, you might see 2 to 3 Zaras, and each one's going to have different things based on what the people on that specific street are wearing day to day.
Yeah, guys, and if you take that international marketing class, these are things you might learn.
Yes.
It is educational. It's funny how like that consumer research that you're learning in the class, it's like experiential learning just when you're like shopping. Can you tell me a little bit about weekend trips? How did you spend your weekends? I know your program was cut short, but were you able to travel, whether that was with an AIFS excursion or just leisure on your own on those weekends?
Yeah, so what was amazing about AIFS is that they included so many day excursions into our packet of what we were doing. And so I got to see so many small towns of Spain that I would have never known to go to on my own. I got to see the mountains, I got to see the beach, I got to see famous museums, things of that nature. So it was just really cool to like be exposed to that kind of stuff, because I wouldn't have done it on my own. I would have been more inclined to go the more touristy places like Paris, Amsterdam, things like that. But finding those small towns was really nice, because that's where you really find like the true culture of Spain. You still find it in Barcelona, but maybe not as much in the big cities that have so many people from different countries who live there. You're going to find it more so in those smaller towns. So that was really nice. But in addition to that, with AIFS, I was able to first go to London, which is somewhere I'd never even thought of going. So that was just very interesting to see. And I also got to go to Morocco, which was an extremely different culture than I'd ever been exposed to. So that was just very eye-opening. And then besides that, I had other trips planned to take, but because we got sent home early, I didn't get to go. But one thing it really taught me was to do what you want when you want to do it. Like, don't wait for something to happen for you to do something, because it just might not come.
Don't be afraid to I'm not encouraging that you guys just travel alone. Travel with other people. You know, if you want to, if that's what you're comfortable with, always go by the buddy system. But don't wait for somebody to come along to do those things. Know that your independence, own it, and like you'll be able to. One of the things that is liberating about study abroad is just kind of learning like what you are capable of. And 90% of the time it's things that you maybe thought you weren't capable of.
But also just being in your city. For me, it took me a couple weeks to make good friends. Like I had people I knew I could hang out with, but to make really good friends, it took me a while. And so in that time, I just had to learn to, okay, if I want to go get a smoothie, I got to get myself and go get the smoothie by myself. Like maybe someone doesn't want to come with me. Or if I'm going to walk to class, I'm going to need to walk to class by myself. So when I got used to doing things by myself, it just became normal. And I mean, that's something I'm able to bring back to the U.S., not being afraid to, I don't know, go to a restaurant and sit by myself, enjoy a meal, or go to the movies. Like that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me.
In terms of those smaller towns, right, where you kind of find that sense of community and you see how people are living in not those bigger touristy areas, did you find a favorite or one that kind of sticks out to you that you would recommend students not pass up?
Yes. If you go to Barcelona or Spain in general, travel to 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟. It's a beach town in Spain, and it was so beautiful. Like, it's like you arrive and you're up high, and I guess the beach is down low. So there's all these smaller houses and shops that are taking you down. So you're going through windy roads, and then it just opens up to the beach, and it's just so beautiful. There's so many smaller shops and smaller restaurants or family restaurants that have such traditional Spanish food. So that was really amazing to me. And then there was this one other city I traveled to with a group of friends called 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, the famous artist. He had a summer home there, and we went to his museum, and we heard about his summer home and the town. So we decided to go to where it was in 𝗟𝗘𝗧, and it was just so beautiful. We went in when it was cold, so that it was shut down, more of a summer town, but it was like another beachy town. And it honestly looked like when you see pictures of Santorini, you see all those white homes on the mountain. That's exactly what it looked like. So it was just such a picturesque place, and it just looked like it should have been a postcard, but we were really just looking at it.
These smaller little towns that maybe people don't know as much about, like, that's a really big steal on a study abroad program, because it's probably super affordable to get there and to possibly stay overnight. The accommodations and the lodging is probably a lot cheaper. And also, like, you're not dealing with, like, you know, tons of tourists, right? It's kind of like one of Spain's best hidden secrets that we're now sharing with everybody. But the point is, you're not dealing with those mass amounts of tourism, which are okay, right? There's a reason why these touristy places are popular, but it's kind of nice to feel those tinier little bubbles of community and just witness what is without all of the bustle. Speaking of locals, did you find them warm and friendly? If you practice your Spanish on them, like ordering food, what have you, on a daily basis, just those small interactions, was it well received?
Okay, to start off, the AIFS staff that was local to Spain was so helpful and kind, and like made me feel like I had a family while I was away from my own. In regards to the people of the Spanish culture, I noticed they stared a lot, like just at anything. And I thought that was just so different. Like at first it made me uncomfortable, because I was kind of like, why are you looking at me? Like all that kind of stuff. That's definitely just the culture. I wouldn't say people were necessarily warm and fuzzy, but it was rude. And when I did practice my Spanish, it was well received. I have stories of people practicing their Spanish and maybe they're struggling, and then so the waiter will just respond in English like, okay, what do you want? But I would run through my sentences in my head first to make sure I came across like I really knew it. So no one ever told or stopped me to speak in Spanish or speak.
You made a really good point, and I've experienced this not just in Spain but other Europe, Asia, other places in the world. When you're staring at somebody in the US for a long period of time, whether it's a good stare or a bad stare, it's usually like a negative thing, right? Like, why are you staring at me? Do I have food on my face? Like, what is it? In other countries, it's not always considered rude. And so, like, you just kind of have to embrace it, because it could happen a lot for any reason. So whatever it is, you just kind of have to like get used to being stared at. And it's probably because they pick up in some way, shape, or form that you're not from Spain. Right? So you're like this like unicorn to them. So.
I think it goes back to cultural dimensions as well, just because like all of our cultures impact us in different ways. And so even in an experience like that, it goes back to, okay, asking the question, why is someone doing this, and uncovering that it's not going to be something that's always negative. So that's important.
Exactly. Yeah. Friendships on the program. You said it took you a little time to make like your friend group. Was it comprised of Spanish locals, other international students, AIFS participants, other participants that you maybe met that were American through other study abroad? And how have those relationships flourished or continued or not continued since you repatriated home?
The friends that I did make, it did take me a while, but once I made my group of like three to four friends, we were tight. We did everything together. We always looked out for each other. And that's what like I was really looking for in friendships while there, because going to a new country, when I first got there, I was definitely nervous. I was definitely scared. And so I wasn't just willing to go out at night with anyone. To make sure like this was going to be my group that was going to look out for me, and I was going to look out for them. So the people that I did build relationships with are people I stay in contact with to this day. And honestly, I see them being in my wedding party, just because like we became such great friends, and we were experiencing the same things. I don't know, the same struggles while we were there, the same successes. So it was just really like nice to bond with them. And it's something we've kept going now.
I'm telling you, I'm 10 years off my study abroad experience, and the girl that I roomed with We are still good friends to this day. Did you have a favorite Spanish food?
Oh my
Tapas. God. It all comes in tapas, right? Can you explain to maybe some people that don't know, what is it? What is a tapas?
Yeah, so tapas are like appetizers, and they come in smaller portions. And I love tapas because it was the perfect way to bond over food with a group of people. So if you're going with friends, you're sharing everything. And so you can have conversation based on whatever you've done for the day, but you can also have conversation based on your food and trying new things. It's just a great way to bond. My favorite tapas, that's so hard. Oh my gosh.
It is hard to choose just one. And
tapas bravas are always going to be one of my favorites. Paella is not a tapas, but it was definitely essential. I loved that.
And you can put almost anything in a paella.
Yeah.
Fish, meat, beef, anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And sangria is not a food, but that was really amazing there.
But it's a staple.
Yeah. Anything seafood, honestly.
Barcelona is right on the coast.
Yeah.
Right near the ocean. So that seafood is like top of the notch, fresh as you're going to get it. Excellent. And affordable too, because there's so much of it. Do you have a favorite memory?
When we found out that we had to leave, we had like, let's say 48 to 72 hours. So me and two of my besties I made over there, we were like, oh my God, we're going to do everything we haven't done yet. Okay. So we went to every spot we could go to tourist wise. We just ate out as much as we could. Like, we just had the best time trying to rush and finish everything. And that was just such a great memory. In addition to that, my other favorite memory was just like being immersed in the culture and feeling like I was a part of the community. Like, when I was able to develop my daily schedule in Spain, and like waking up in the morning, packing my lunch, walking down the street to my class, would have like a 20-minute walk, and seeing the same people every day on the street and going to the same bakery or coffee shop and ordering the same thing, like that sense of community and that sense of routine, that's what made me ultimately feel comfortable being in a different country, because I felt like I had purpose. And so being able to carry that out every day was just, I don't know, it felt good.
Did you have a culture shock moment when you first arrived to Barcelona?
Oh my gosh. So first we went to London for 2 days. So it was I was already feeling like, okay, like I'm so tired. This time difference is wild. Then we went to Spain and we got there and it was just like, okay, we're going. So we got there, we got taken to our house, and then it was time to unpack. Then it's like, okay, I'm hungry. Like, I need to find something to eat. It was just like on a roll. And we had a schedule. And that night we went into like the center of the city, I guess, and just kind of having a tour. But I'm just the worst with directions. So I really didn't know what the tour was showing me. Yeah. So then after that, at that point, I had made one friend. So I was kind of just buddied with her because I was just scared. Like, oh my God, I'm not even a city girl. Like, I don't live in a city. I don't even know what I'm doing here. And then we had our tour, and then our leaders were like, okay, go do what you want or go home. And I was like, how? Like, I don't know where I came from. I think that was my initial moment. But aside from that initial moment of culture shock, something that I guess I equated to culture shock would be like sickness. While I was in Spain, I definitely felt homesick. I was enjoying where I was. I wasn't necessarily missing like my school experience, but I definitely missed my family and friends, and the time difference made it really difficult just to talk to everyone. So that was unfortunate. But then once I got home back to the US, I felt it like a reverse culture shock, and I was feeling some type of way that I wasn't in Spain anymore. I wasn't doing daily routine. I wasn't seeing this group of friends. I wasn't doing this activity and that activity. In reflecting on it, what it made me realize is that a lot of times we just don't appreciate what we have when we have it. If I would have just been more in the moment of what I'm doing day to day in Spain and just being grateful for that opportunity, maybe I wouldn't have been missing, maybe I still would have been missing people, but maybe I wouldn't have missed them as much, and then come home just to reflect and be like, oh my God, I miss my daily schedule in Spain. I miss this. To the point where I'm still like, I just have to get back there. Maybe I need to live there. I don't know. So
like the grass is always greener. This essence of time is completely different for the rest of your life now. And then you repatriate, and you're not repatriating like the rest of our students in AIFS history. You are now repatriating, and you're going straight from the airport to a room to quarantine by yourself. So what were your coping mechanisms once you were in the quarantine process and you're trying to reacclimate back to your American life?
Yeah, I really don't think I had any. I don't think anything I did was constructive up until I applied to become an AIFS ambassador. And when I was able to do that, then I got to be with a group of people who were experiencing the same things as me, who felt the same way, and a way to constructively address those emotions. So that's definitely been an improvement.
All of our AIFS alumni ambassadors, like the service and the gift that you give to students that are looking to pursue this, because it is a big life adjustment. It is a big decision to make. It's a financial beast. It's an emotional beast. It's the best thing you'll ever do in your young life, I think. I'm biased. If you guys and what you say is the factor that encourages students to do this, and you're the reason they pursue this, what a gift you guys are giving. So we talked about it over and over. I know I've heard it in like 100 different answers that you've given us on all different memories and accounts and everything, but growth, right? Like this is just the ultimate experience to just like catapult yourself into a new self, basically. So what were those professional, personal, academic outlets of growth? How have those been used as you're entering your career and all the things that you want to pursue in the future?
Oh my gosh, I feel like study abroad impacted me in so many different ways on both the professional and personal front, I guess, and academically. So initially through academically, about cultural dimensions, that really impacted me, because I think it's really important to be empathetic towards others, and you can't necessarily do that if you don't understand their background. And there's such a large push and focus in the US on diversity, equity, and inclusion, from maybe the racial standpoint or sexual orientation, things of that nature, but it's not always from the cultural standpoint. And a lot of the why behind the reason people do things they do is a result of their culture and how it's impacted them. So it's really important to understand that. And so in like learning what that is and how that's built into different people, it's really just become an interest of mine to pursue professionally. And although that's not what I'm doing now, I'm in a technology sales role, it's something that I can transition to in the future.
Yes.
I'm at currently, or if I want to go in a different direction or do something on the side, but it's something I can constantly be researching and evaluating through research on the internet or through traveling and just observing people. That's something that I really enjoy doing. Like when I'm traveling, just observing the local community and seeing how they interact and things of that nature. On a personal level, study abroad impacted me by showing me that I'm never going to fail. Like when I got thrown into a new country and said, I was told just go and live and be, I had no idea what to do, but nothing terrible happened to me. It's like when you're put into any situation, you're going to adapt. You're going to thrive. Like we're not built to fail in any situation. So that was really encouraging to me once I realized that. And adaptability when it comes to that, but also traveling. When you're traveling in a foreign country and maybe you don't speak the language or you don't know the language that well, and trying to get on the bus, then the plane, then the train, and you have to organize all of that. If once you figure it out, it's really empowering. Like if I get thrown in the middle of Asia, I'm going to figure out how to get my way back home, because there's just certain tools you need to use and you figure that out along the way. And then in addition to that was patience, because in making friends and wanting to go on trips or wanting to go out and do this and that, you have to have patience with other people's times, with their maybe financial resources, planning trips, things of that nature. So there were just so many lessons that I learned from study abroad. And I truly think it made me a better person. I think that's also why I crave so badly to go back and like in the future, expose my spouse or expose my children to something like that. Because I think when you're exposed to a different culture, it just makes you a more well-rounded individual when it comes to things regarding yourself and things regarding others.
I feel like I have to like bow or like why you or like clap. I don't know. I need like confetti canyons or something.
In the pandemic even happening in the US, all place, maybe people don't want to wear masks. Maybe they want to continue to travel. They want to do this. They want to do that. What that shows is a more individualistic mindset and worrying about yourself. Whereas in other countries, there's more of a collectivistic mindset. Places like Italy and Spain, places like that, they're worrying about their neighbor. They're worrying about the next person they're going to affect their actions. So maybe their numbers may be a little lower faster than ours because they're worrying about that next person. Here we worry about ourselves, and it's all not always in a negative aspect.
Right.
The aspect of maybe professional development, personal development. Okay, cool. We're focusing on ourselves. We got to worry about ourselves before we worry about someone else. But there's other aspects, like when it comes to a world pandemic, that it would be important to think of others before
our neighbors,
that we can have the greater good for everyone rather than just ourselves.
Very good. Well said. Yeah, that is something you will experience when you're abroad. Not to say that we do it wrong. It's not wrong and right, guys. It's just different.
It's just different.
And it's your preference, what you want to lean towards in the future. But I've seen this many times, many countries I've traveled to, where that collective society is just, it's innate, it's visible. You see somebody who has fallen off a motorbike and like 20 people rush to your side. But, you know, here, someone might need that, and you'll think of the bystander effect, where someone else will help that person, you know, and maybe you don't rush to their aid. So there's a lot of that individual versus collective society, but you'll see that a lot when you're abroad. And again, the more you can adopt that and bring that back with you, it's a gift to other people that get to be around you. So we've talked about this. Your job as an alumni ambassador, you know, is to help students understand how this experience impacted you, how it could impact them, help them find the resources and the tools for their individualistic needs for study abroad. Is there something that you share with students, whether it's a personal experience or words of wisdom, you know, that you keep in your back pocket, that you always share with students to kind of help them make this decision for themselves?
If a student is wanting to go abroad but isn't committed to doing so yet, all I can say is do your research and commit, because there's just going to be so many people who are going to talk about it, and then never take the action to do it. But I promise you, taking that action to get your finances in order, your academics in order, your paperwork in order, so you can get your butt to wherever that other country is, will literally impact you for the rest of your life. Might be a lot of hard work, what seems like a lot of hard work now, to do all that paperwork and communicate with teachers. I know at my school, it was definitely difficult just because studying abroad isn't very common. So it was a lot of work on my side to do it, but you have to recognize what you're going to gain out of this professionally, personally, academically. There's just so much you'll be able to uncover about yourself if you place and plop yourself into an environment where you have no idea or no option but to grow. And so if you can foster that opportunity for yourself, why would you not?
You said at my university, it's not very common to go abroad. You're a huge resource for those students as being a testament of somebody who did this. It worked. It doesn't matter if hundreds of students from your university are going. Make the decision for yourself. If it's a good decision for you at that time and you can pull it off, then it's been done, right? You're the proof in the pudding. It has been done. I mean, even if a student doesn't have an alumni ambassador at their university, we have a whole team of alumni ambassadors, a whole team of alumni. We have our diversity and inclusivity initiatives team. We have our field staff that visits all the universities. We have the program advisors, the admissions officers, the resident director staff. These people are all resources you can talk to pre-departure if you have any concerns about a location, if you want to learn more. We are as open as a book can come, guys, full transparency. We are a family at AIFS, so talk to the family. Join the family. We're going to do a speed round. I'm sure you know what this is and are familiar, but I'm just going to give you a word. You just ring off the first thing you think of in terms of that word with your experience. My favorite, Rachel, food.
Okay, flavorful.
Ooh.
But I have to expand on it really quick. So
please do. No, all the time.
But extremely flavorful, natural flavors. Okay, the McCormick mixture of this, the lime zest, all that. It wasn't that. It was all natural. It was amazing, but it altered my taste buds so much. So when I got home and I was eating my mom's food, I was like, this is too spicy, too much seasoning, this and that, because the food there was not spicy, but it was definitely flavorful, just in a different way.
Transportation.
Effort. Okay.
Ooh, good one.
Transportation, because one, do you want to walk? Okay, now I'm tired. Okay, do you want to get on the metro? You better be on time, one. And two, it might be really crowded, so it might be tight. And you need to make sure you know where you're going and follow your Google Maps or whatever you use so you don't mess up. So it was definitely effort, but it was cheaper than having like a car or something. Especially walking. I mean, that was free, so I enjoyed doing that a lot.
I think there's a metro system in Barcelona, underground. I'm always like pro pedestrian, right? Like if you're in a big city, like walk, because you're going to be like looking around and try not to look at the ground so much because you might miss something, but also try to not like run into poles and things. Like kind of pay attention. But it is really like fulfilling when you can like master the public transportation somewhere else. It's like empowering, I think is the word you used. Yeah, it is that tenfold, because you're like, did I just do that? Locals. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but one word to describe the locals.
Okay, there's a couple of different ones, but one I'll go with is touchy. Not touching me, but I guess Barcelona is just a very romantic city, and people were always touching. So that was different.
Language.
Beautiful. I love the Spanish language so much. Oh my goodness.
Let's see. Favorite city. This can be your home city location. This can be anywhere you experienced in your travels.
Definitely Barcelona. It's the city, then there's the beach and all the shopping and so many different restaurants. And it's not just Spanish cuisine. It's every cuisine you could think of, the people, the activity you could be a part of. It was just the best.
It's like a vibrance to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's its own like life. Did you siesta? I don't know if I asked this question.
Oh, yes.
Every day, all day?
I nap every day. So yes, I definitely took my naps.
This is like an approved nap time by the city. And because things are open later, and they open later in the day, like maybe like 11 to noon sometimes is average for most local businesses. And they stay open later at night. And meal times are like, things are shut down and whatnot, because people really value that gathering time. It's not just like sit down for a half hour, try to make small talk with your family. It's like this
right.
Go on hours and hours, and they value that time together.
For sure.
Landmarks, natural, historical.
Oh, my favorite landmark has to be the 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦. That is architectural structure that's in Barcelona. It's also in Paris. It's also and I mean, I didn't know much about Europe before, so I didn't know what it was, but I passed it one day, and I kid you not, from that point on, I would pass it at least 3 times a week on purpose. Like between classes, I would walk there.
Change your route.
Yeah, I would go sit, see all the people walking up and down the street of the Arc, the street performers. Like, I just loved it. It just, every time I went there, it just made me feel like, wow, you really made it. You made it here. You're thriving. Like, everything is okay.
Excellent. Architecture.
The architecture was gorgeous. And if we're speaking about specifics like Gaudi, his architecture in Barcelona was so creative and thoughtful. Like, it was amazing. Like the Sagrada Familia, which still isn't done, but just every aspect of it and the reasoning behind each design, it's just very amazing. He had a lot of other buildings in Barcelona that I didn't get to go to, but from the outside, they were definitely intriguing. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I love the way Sagrada Familia looks like a melted candle. Like the sun just took it and kind of, but it's just that well thought out. And you're right, it's always under construction almost, because it's not finished. And here's my favorite question, and if you can, and I know it's difficult, but one word to describe your entire experience.
To describe my entire experience, like looking back, the phrase is say yes. Like, just always say yes to everything you can, because they're all going to be different ways to absorb that culture and in turn impact you and how you move forward with your life.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much. Any closing words before we say adios or ciao?
I hope I was able to say something that maybe impacted someone else or swayed your decision to be more of a yes towards studying abroad in the future.
Well, Rachel, we're excited to see what you do next. Hopefully we get to see you very soon, and take care.
Bye.